The first million took everything. Years of saying no. Years of investing while the balance barely moved. A summit you climbed deliberately, one hard dollar at a time with your eyes fixed on it the whole way. The second million was different. You looked up one ordinary day, checked the same account you always check, and the number had quietly crossed $2 million. And you could not even say exactly when it happened. It arrived while you were busy living, and that single difference reveals the strangest truth about this milestone. The first million was a goal you chased. The second million is proof the machine now runs without you. Here is exactly what quietly changes the day you reach $2 million. Here is what you will understand by the end of this video. 6 things become true at $2 million that 1 million only promised. The first is that financial independence stops being a technicality and becomes an actual, livable life. The day you could genuinely stop, if you wanted to. The second is that your freedom becomes durable. It can now survive a brutal market crash and still leave you standing above the line. The third is the strange moment your returns permanently outpace your ability to save. The engine becomes bigger than you are. The fourth is a permission almost nobody expects after years of discipline. For the first time, you are allowed to spend a little. The fifth is that your money problems quietly turn into money decisions. The entire question set changes. And the sixth reaches generations past you. 2 million is where your wealth becomes a true machine, large enough to fund people who do not exist yet. The first million made you free in theory. The second million is where the foundation stops being the goal and becomes the thing everything else gets built on. Let me show you. There is one idea that explains why $2 million feels different from the million before it, and it comes straight from the rule we talked about last time. The 4% rule says you can safely draw about 4% of a diversified portfolio every year, adjusted upward for inflation, and have strong historical confidence the money outlives you. At $1 million, 4% was $40,000 a year. Real freedom. But for most households, $40,000 covers the basics and not much more. It made work optional in the mathematical sense, while quietly keeping a hand on the wheel. Most people who hit $1 million keep working, and they are right to, because $40,000 a year is a floor, not a life. Now double the base. $2 million at 4% is $80,000 a year, and $80,000 is a completely different category of number. That is not covers the essentials. For a large share of households, $80,000 a year, adjusted for inflation indefinitely without earning another paycheck, that is a genuinely comfortable middle-class life. Not a survival budget. An actual life with room in it. That is the line that makes 2 million special. 1 million bought you the option to stop. 2 million bought you a life worth stopping into. Below 1 million, financial independence was a direction. At 1 million, it was a place you could technically stand. At 2 million, it is a place you could actually live, comfortably, durably, for the rest of your life. And notice what just happened to the milestone itself. For your entire climb, the goal was always out ahead of you. The next number, the next level, the thing you were reaching toward. At 2 million, the first million you fought so hard for is no longer the goal at all. It has quietly slipped underneath you and become the floor. The thing you chased became the thing you stand on. That shift, from goal to foundation, is what this entire milestone is really about. Unlock number 1. At $2 million, financial independence stops being a technicality and becomes a life you could actually choose. I want to be careful here because this is the unlock people most romanticize and most misunderstand. At 1 million, work is optional came with an asterisk. Yes, the math said you were free, but free to live on $40,000 a year, which for most people meant free to live carefully. The option existed. The comfortable life did not quite. So almost everyone kept working, and the freedom stayed mostly theoretical. 2 million removes the asterisk. $80,000 a year is the kind of income most people spend their whole careers trying to reach by working. Now it arrives without the work. That is the difference between being able to survive without a job and being able to live without one. It is the difference between early retirement as a sacrifice and early retirement as an upgrade. This is the number where, for a large share of people, the honest answer to, "Could I stop?" finally becomes yes. Not yes if I move somewhere cheaper and cut everything to the bone. Just yes. The mortgage is covered. The groceries are covered. The trips, the hobbies, the ordinary comforts of a normal good life. Covered by a portfolio you are not even fully drawing down. Most people still will not stop, and that is fine. But the meaning of working changes one more time. At $1 million, work became optional. At $2 million, staying in the game becomes a pure preference, something you do because you like the work or the people or the purpose, with every last thread of financial necessity cut. There is no version of "I have to" left in it. That is unlock number 1, and it is the one the whole milestone is named for. Unlock number 2, and this is the one almost nobody talks about, because it is invisible until the worst moment arrives. At $2 million, your freedom becomes durable. It can survive a disaster. Here is the problem with being free at exactly 1 million. The 4% rule works on average, across history. But markets do not move in averages. They move in violent swings. And the single most dangerous thing that can happen to someone who just reached financial independence is a severe crash early on, while they are leaning on the portfolio. Investors have a name for this: sequence of returns risk. And it is the quiet killer of early retirements. Retire right into a 40% drop, keep withdrawing through it, and you can permanently damage a portfolio that looked perfectly safe on paper. At 1 million, that risk is real and frightening. A brutal bear market takes your million down towards 600,000, and suddenly the floor you are standing on has cracked. Your $80,000 life was never on the table, and even your $40,000 life now looks shaky. Freedom at exactly the minimum is fragile freedom. 2 million changes the picture completely because you now have margin. Picture that same brutal crash. 30, even 40% off the top. 2 million falls to somewhere around 1.2 to 1.4 million. And here is the point. You are still a millionaire. You are still standing on more than the entire foundation you spent decades building. The crash that would have shattered freedom at 1 million is something you can sit through at 2, without selling, without panic, because even the wreckage is bigger than most people's whole life savings. That is what the second million actually buys. Not twice the freedom. Durable freedom. Freedom with a shock absorber under it. Freedom that survives a bad decade instead of being destroyed by it. The first million made you free on a calm day. The second million keeps you free on the worst one. That is unlock number 2, unlock number 3, and it is the moment the whole relationship between you and your money flips for good. At $2 million, your returns permanently outpace your ability to save. The engine becomes bigger than you. Let me put numbers on it. $2 million invested at a long-run average of 7% generates roughly $140,000 a year. $140,000 in returns alone in a single year from money that already exists. Now ask yourself an honest question. In a normal year, how much could you personally add to your portfolio out of your own income? 20,000? 40? Even a disciplined high earner saving 50,000 a year is now contributing a fraction of what the portfolio produces on its own. Sit with what that means. For your entire financial life, you were the main engine. Your savings rate was the thing that moved the number. You watched it like a hawk, optimized it, felt every contribution. At 2 million, your savings rate becomes a rounding error against your returns. The portfolio earns more while you sleep than you can add while you work. This is the precise moment you stop being a saver who invests and become an investor whose contributions no longer matter. The money has crossed over from something you build to something that builds itself, and builds faster than you ever could. It is a genuinely strange feeling the first time you notice it. You get a raise, you save more than ever, you feel proud of it, and the market moves your portfolio by 10 times that amount in a single week, in either direction, without asking your permission. That can feel unsettling, like you have lost the controls. But it is the goal arriving, not the danger. It means the heavy lifting has fully transferred from your shoulders to the compounding machine. Your job was never to push this number up forever by hand. Your job was to build an engine big enough that it no longer needed you to push. At 2 million, that engine is finished. That is unlock number 3. Unlock number 4, and it is the one that catches disciplined people completely off guard, because it asks them to do the exact opposite of everything that got them here. At $2 million for the first time, you are allowed to spend a little. Think about the entire journey to this point. Every milestone before this was a story about restraint. Live below your means. Resist the upgrade. Automate the saving so you cannot talk yourself out of it. Do not let lifestyle creep eat your progress. For 15, 20, 25 years, the answer to, should I spend this, was almost always no. And that relentless no is precisely what built the foundation you are now standing on. But here is what changes at 2 million. Your $80,000 withdrawal covers a genuinely comfortable life. And your portfolio is still generating returns well beyond that. There is now real surplus. Money the engine produces that you do not need to reinvest just to stay free. And for the first time on the entire ladder, spending some of that surplus does not set you back. The machine refills it. This is a harder shift than it sounds, and it traps a lot of people, which is exactly why I am flagging it as an unlock rather than a footnote. The discipline that built your wealth becomes a kind of prison if you cannot ever switch it off. Plenty of people reach $2, $3, $4 million and still cannot bring themselves to fly comfortably or take the trip or fix the thing that has annoyed them for a decade, because the no became their identity, and they never gave themselves permission to update it. 2 million is where the math finally gives you that permission. Not permission to explode your lifestyle, we will get to that trap. Permission to loosen your grip deliberately on a small slice of a surplus the engine keeps replacing. You spent decades proving you could delay gratification. At 2 million, the lesson changes. You also have to learn that the entire point of building the machine was, eventually, to let it improve your actual life. That is unlock number 4. Unlock number 5, and it is a quiet one, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. At $2 million, your money problems turn into money decisions. The whole category of question changes. For most of your life, money showed up as a problem to be solved. How do I cover this bill? How do I pay down this debt? How do I afford this emergency, this house, this goal? Every financial question had a constraint baked into it. There was not quite enough, and your job was to make it stretch. That is what a money problem is. A gap between what you have and what you need, and the stress of closing it. At $2 million, that gap closes for good, and the questions that replace it look completely different. The new questions are not, can I afford this? They are, what do I actually want? Not, how do I make ends meet? But, how should I structure this? How much should sit in stocks versus something safer now that the number is real? How do I think about taxes when the portfolio itself is a source of income? Should I start giving some of this away while I am alive to see it work? What is this money actually for? Notice that none of those are survival questions. They are design questions. You have moved from playing defense, protecting yourself against not having enough, to playing offense, deciding what to do with a surplus that is not going away. That is a fundamentally different game, and it requires a fundamentally different mindset. The skills that got you here were defensive: frugality, discipline, grinding the number up. The skills that matter now are about allocation and intention, deciding on purpose what a large and growing pile of money is supposed to accomplish in your life and beyond it. A lot of people never make this switch. They arrive at 2 million still thinking like someone with 20,000, still anxious, still defensive, still solving problems that no longer exist. The ones who actually use their wealth are the ones who realize the problems became decisions and start making those decisions deliberately instead of avoiding them. That is unlock number 5. Unlock number 6, and it is the one that reaches the farthest, past your retirement, past your lifetime, into the lives of people who do not exist yet. At $2 million, your money becomes a true generational machine. We saw the seed of this at 1 million, where a portfolio left alone could grow into something that outlives you. At 2 million, that idea stops being a nice possibility and becomes a serious force, because the numbers get genuinely large. Run it forward. $2 million invested at 7%, left completely untouched for 30 years, grows to roughly $15 million. At a more conservative 5%, it becomes around $8.5 million. Even at a cautious 4%, it passes $6 million. These are not lottery numbers. This is one foundation, the very one you are standing on right now. Given time and simply left alone, doing the only thing compounding knows how to do. And at that scale, you are no longer talking about your own retirement. You are talking about a sum large enough to change the entire trajectory of a family. This is where the foundation framing finally pays off completely. The first million was your finish line, the thing you spent your life reaching. But at 2 million, even if you live a full, comfortable 80,000 a year life off of it, the machine can keep growing underneath you, because you are not drawing it down faster than it earns. You are living off the top while the base keeps compounding. And what compounds past your own life becomes the starting line for everyone who comes after. A debt-free education, a first home with no 30-year sentence attached, the same work-optional floor for them that took you decades to build for yourself, handed over on day one. The philosophical fork we first met at 1 million, die with 0, or build something permanent, is no longer a thought experiment at this level. At 2 million, with margin to spare, you can genuinely do both. Live well now and still leave a foundation behind. The choice stops being either or and becomes a question of design. That is the real meaning of the second million. The first one was the goal. The second one is the cornerstone of something that outlives the person who built it. That is unlock number 6. So you are standing at 1 million, or somewhere on the climb past it. How do you actually reach 2? And just as importantly, how do you avoid the trap waiting at this level? Because it is the exact opposite of the one before it. The good news first, and by now it should sound familiar. You already know how, and at this level, the machine does most of the work. Remember the rule of 72. At a 7% return, money doubles in roughly 10 years, which means $1 million, with not a single new dollar added, becomes 2 million in about a decade, entirely on its own. The second million is the one milestone you can almost coast into. Keep living below your means. Keep the gap invested in a low-cost diversified portfolio. Keep your hands off it through the crashes. And for a lot of people, the second million arrives more quietly and more automatically than any number before it. There is, once again, no new secret. The boring formula that built the first million is the same formula that doubles it. But the trap at 2 million is genuinely different, and it is the opposite of the one I warned you about last time. At 1 million, the danger was spending too much. The lifestyle explosion, the upgrade that quietly drops you back under the line. At 2 million, the danger for most people who get here is the reverse, working too long and spending too little. It is the oversaver who cannot switch off. The person who crossed every finish line years ago and is still grinding, still depriving, still optimizing a number they are never going to spend, because the discipline that built the wealth became the only mode they know. They win the game and keep playing it as if they are losing. So here are 3 rules to carry you to 2 million and, just as importantly, to actually use it. Rule 1. Recognize when you have crossed the finish line and give yourself permission. The hardest part of 2 million is not the math. It is admitting you have arrived and allowing yourself to live differently because of it. Run the numbers honestly. If 80,000 a year covers your life, the chase is over. Let it be over. Rule 2. Let the engine run and do not get clever now that it is big. The temptation at 2 million is to feel like such a large number demands something sophisticated. Exotic strategies, concentrated bets, complicated moves worthy of the size. Ignore it. A simple, boring, diversified portfolio repeated for a long time is what built this, and it is what turns 2 into 4. Do not outsmart the thing that already won. Rule 3. Decide what the second million is for. The first million had an obvious job: get you free. The second million does not come with built-in instructions, and that is exactly why it is so easy to drift. Is it earlier freedom? A more comfortable life now? A foundation for your kids? Something you give away? There is no wrong answer except not choosing. Money without a purpose just accumulates anxiety. Money with a purpose becomes a tool. Give the second million a job. $2 million is not a bigger version of 1 million. It is a different thing entirely. The moment your wealth stops being a goal you are reaching for and becomes the foundation everything else is built on. The number is real now. The freedom is durable now. The only question left is what you build on top of it. 1 million was where work became optional. 2 million is where the option becomes a life, where financial independence turns livable, where your freedom can survive a crash, where your returns outpace anything you could save, where you are finally allowed to spend, where money problems become money decisions, and where your wealth grows large enough to outlast you and reshape the generations that follow. The first million was the goal you chased. The second million is the foundation everything else stands on. If this gave you a new way to see the number you are working toward, drop a comment with where you are on the journey. We are building this community one honest milestone at a time. And as always, the note worth repeating every single time: this channel is for education, not financial advice. I am not your advisor. Learn it, question it, run your own numbers, and make the decisions that are right for your life. I will see you in the next one, where we go one step further to $5 million, and the moment money stops being about your life at all and starts being about a category of wealth that plays by entirely different rules.